Hello everyone, how are you?
Doing pretty good.
Great. It's still snowing here, yes? I like snow, but the aftermath is not very nice after a few days when it's icy. So a cold, snowy day here in Bloomington Normal, and I hope it's nice where you are, or at least this beautiful snowy. Today I'm going to talk about the stakeholders, going off of the same set of slides I had last time. There will be a stakeholder activity that we do together. Everyone will do that activity individually. And then that's going to be one section of your project charter. So the work you do in class today, it's going to help your group assignment 1. This is not a lab, Mason. It's an activity. Good question. Just a paper and pencil activity or keyboard activity. Then I hope I'll give you at least 20 minutes of group time. I will talk to all the groups, and it's very important that we finalize your MOVs. If I gave you some comments about your MOV, or if you didn't have them, or if they were not information systems related, they were just about the colony in general or the construction or housing in general. So this is the day we have to finalize. We have to touch and finalize those, because the MOVs, they have implications for everything else that you put on your project charter. I have office hours tomorrow, 2 to 3 p.m. as always. I think yesterday, Tuesday, was the only day that I didn't see anyone. Usually I have at least a few of you showing up for the office hours. I am planning to open office hours on Sunday, as I anticipate some of you will try to finish the work on Sunday and may have some items that you would need to clarify with me or ask questions about. Any questions from the class before I start doing a really quick lecture and then we do our activity? No questions? Okay, then let me have my lecture notes up. And let's see. I have so many things. All right. This is what we call a stakeholder analysis, or stakeholder. It helps us do an analysis and have a plan for our stakeholders. If you remember the picture with the branches, the 10 knowledge areas in PMBOK, stakeholder management is one of the areas. Fun fact, stakeholders management wasn't part of PMBOK. It was added a few years ago, I think less than a decade ago. Stakeholder was the 10th area that was added. So if you look at some of the old pictures of PMBOK, stakeholders management is not there. Then they recognize that this group of people, they need specific attention, and there are specific techniques and ideas and processes involved in doing stakeholders management. That's why we have a new area today. And as you noticed, there was a section on this, on MasterChef project charter example that you saw last time. The idea here is this very similar idea that we apply to our risk. So what we do here, we have a map. In your risk discussion, we had probability and impact. Here we have interest and power. So we're going to place different stakeholders on this map based on their interest in our project and based on the power they have over the project. Just like the things we did with our risks, the one at the top right corner, somebody who is highly interested, and they have high power over your project, you want to make sure you pay attention to them. Yes. So the general strategy here that's listed on the top right corner is manage closely. What does manage closely means to you may be different to what it means to another project manager. So depending on the work you're doing, depending on the project, depending on the organization, depending on your style, and those stakeholders, the styles of communication, you may choose to do this differently. So this is the general idea, manage them closely. And you may say that, maybe Greg will say that for me, managing closely means that I give them regular updates. I give them open invitation for status hearing meetings. I let them come in and check on us anytime they want you to. I phone call them. But somebody else like Jonathan may say, for me, managing closely means that I have a list of these people, maybe 5 of them. I create a thread on my Slack, on my other the communication platform. I give them quick notes on a daily basis. I share quick updates on a daily basis. So what you do to manage closely this group of stakeholders is up to you. Manage closely those who are very highly interested and very highly powerful. On the bottom left corner, you have the people who have low interest, low power. These may be just the users of your system. They're just okay with the current system. They're okay with your system. They can't do anything to stop your project. They can't create obstacles. They're just there. And the strategy would be just monitor them. Make sure what they do, maybe if you're doing incremental deployments, make sure the work they're doing and the kind of reaction they have, it's observed. And if there are areas that needs attention, you would pay attention to those areas. So when we say manage closely or monitor with minimal effort, it's from your perspective as a project manager. So you would do actions to make sure your stakeholders are managed closely or monitored, or in case of the high interest, low power, they are kept informed. And for those who have low interest, high power, they are satisfied with what you're doing. So low interest, high power, this is an executive. They don't care about what you're doing, but they can make or break the project. They decide about money. They decide about allocations. They decide about facilities or human resources. They have a lot of power, but they don't care about your project as much. That's in terms of low power, high interest. There's some middle level manager. They really interested in the idea that you are working on. You're doing oxygen level management, the trend, and doing analysis on the safety of colonists. They really care about that. But in terms of doing the work for your project to help you get support, get money, they're not in that position. You still want to keep them informed, but you don't do more than that. Scale here on this example is low-high. Yes, low interest, high interest, as you see it here. Low interest, high power. This is a simplified version. Scale is up to you. You can say 1 to 5, 1 to 3. It's up to you. And this is just the basic. Also, you may have a negative positive scale. Some people are interested positively, they want you to succeed. Some people want you to fail. Let's say you are your project is part of a portfolio and you competed with other projects, they didn't get funding, your project got funding, similar ideas, different approaches. The other project manager is really not wanting you to succeed. Or there is a legal department, they're not happy the way you handle things and they want to make sure your project doesn't get through because it's going to make their life complicated in terms of doing the legal work around it. So those people, those group of stakeholders, they want you to fail. You can say their interest is -1. They want you to succeed is +1, and they're indifferent 0. So the scale is up to you, but you need to do this type of analysis one way or the other. And the strategies you come up with for dealing with different groups of stakeholders, it's something you keep between you and your team. This is not something you're going to put on your project charter. You would talk about the stakeholders and their titles and their authorities on the project charter, but your strategy for dealing with them is something for you. It doesn't appear on your project charter. So a table like this is a more elaborate version. It has names of people, their interest level, their influence. Just like we shared a few seconds ago, they have +1 for positive interest, -1 for negative interest, and probably 0 for indifference. And they talk about potential conflicts for these stakeholders. They talk about their roles and they talk about the objectives, the things they can do for your project. And the last column is the one I want you to focus. The last column is the strategy. How would you want to deal with that? How would you want to keep them informed or satisfied or monitor them or manage them? Here are the examples. The first example is says to maintain open communication so that political landmines can be avoided. So this is for the first stakeholder. He has high interest and high influence. So this is on the top right corner of your stakeholders map. You want to manage them closely, and this is how they imagine they would do that, open communication. Second stakeholder is positive interest, moderate influence, and they say we're going to work closely. Where's my cursor? Work closely with project stakeholders and project teams. So make sure um, you're keeping them close. Let's look at the last one. They say negative interest, high power. How would you want to deal with a person like that? They want to see you fail, and they're really powerful. So you have to find a way to avoid getting into trouble. It says maintain open communication, just like you had it with high. And use project sponsors influence as necessary. So you have to take actions. If you hear that they talk about your project in higher level meetings and they don't say nice things about your project or the way you're progressing, you have to make sure that's communicated with your sponsors, the people who support your project, and those voices are heard in the meetings as well. So a table like this, again, for your use and for use within your team only. Now, let's say you have a table like this and you're a project manager. You call in sick. Yes, you're not going to workplace. Excuse me. You're not going to your workplace. Somebody calls and not everybody on the team knows everybody that you've been dealing with, because you're the project manager, you're the gatekeeper, you're the communication liaison with the outside world and the other parts of the organization. So if they call and they ask for a piece of information and you have this table set up, your team members can go to this table. Okay, is this person an important person? Do I have to return their call today, or can I wait for the project manager to come back from their leave? So if this is the first person who called and asked for information, highly powerful, highly interested, they better send him something. They better call back and answer his questions or share the reports he's been asking for. They should not wait for you to go back to the office and do that yourself. So this table helps you and your team manage the stakeholders in a way that they're supposed to be managed based on their power and their interest. Now we're going to do a basic example together. I have two things I need you to go ahead and locate right now on your Reginet page. So first of all, go to module 1 and download the Stakeholders Management Plan simple version document. So module 1, learning activities, middle section, last item is the activity. Second, if you don't remember, there was a group description, and I think a few of the groups here, they didn't remember or they didn't even read the description. So this is another chance for you to read the group assignment description. So go ahead and open that group assignment description, scroll down, and look at these people. I have given you a hierarchy, yes? So I want you to pick stakeholders that would be related to your area of focus. So some of you are doing maintenance related work. You're creating an app to expedite maintenance process. So for you, maybe the property manager would be an important stakeholder. Some of you are doing the water and oxygen level. So for you, maybe a construction engineer will be a relevant stakeholder. What happens in that document that I shared with you and I asked you to download, let me find that document.
Are we doing this by ourselves or with our group?
No, right now you're gonna do it alone.
Okay.
And then whatever you find out could be used in your group work. Good question. So this is the table. I want you to identify 3 stakeholders that would relate to your project's focus area. So I'm gonna ask you a question. What is your focus area? Let's say it's oxygen level. Who are the stakeholders would be interested or have any influence on your project? You would say a construction manager, the governance body, the contractors, for example. And then you tell me what do you think about their interest and influence, and then you give me a strategy for dealing with them. And the strategy, again, the general categories are managing closely, keeping satisfied, keeping informed, or monitor. But I want you to give me actions. What does it mean to monitor? How would you do that? So give me example of those strategical approaches. So this first table would be for your project members and you. And the second one is the one that goes onto your project charter. Again, you can pick the same stakeholders, just list their name or come up with the name because I haven't given you the name. List their title and list their authority in terms of how they have power over your project. So I'm gonna share back, let's see, what's the question on the chat? Do we have? Okay. I'm gonna share the same screen. So you have this as an example. Then I'm gonna give you 5 minutes. This is an individual work. And I would want to hear from every one of you. So what we did in the previous section, we could hear about from everybody. So I'll ask you, for example, let's say, John, show me your work. And then you share your document, you go over one of the items, and then we go to the next person. So stakeholders, go back to the project description. If you haven't read it yet, there are people listed there. There is a hierarchy. Some of them have a stake in your project. Some of them don't have high stake. Some of them may be indifferent. So pick those that are related. Only 3. And let's see how far you can go. And then we're going to talk about that in the class. as a whole. Then I'm going to start creating your breakout rooms. So after this activity, I have just two brief ideas to share, and then we go to breakout rooms. If you have any questions, unmute yourself and ask.
I just forgot the interest. I forgot the scale again. It's -1.
You can go by this scale. Positive one, they are interested in your project's success. -1, they want you to fail. 0 is indifferent. But Jacob, you can go with low-high scale or medium-low-high scale. It's up to you
Okay,
what scale you want to choose.
got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to keep myself muted. If you have questions, like Jacob, unmute yourself and ask me. I will hear it. Anybody wants to volunteer to share their work? And then I'm gonna call some of your names after that. Who wants to share? No? Okay,
I can share. I just not positive if I did it 100% correct.
let's look at it. That's a good start.
All right. 1 second. All right. Can you see?
Yes. I have to just move the list of students' name. Perfect. So you have housing department chief. You think they're interested? Yes, they have a lot of influence. Assign and approve task of increasing water availability to colony. So you're talking about their role. That's good. This is the work that they do, but how would you manage them in relation to your project? That's the question. So think about that. Okay.
Okay. So would it be like assigns task to construction manager or that?
See, they're making decisions and they have an influence on your project's success or failure.
Okay.
So those decisions about water availability is not related to your project, but how can you manage them to make sure they're happy with your project? Because you're creating a system that would help them do their work, yes, or
Mm-hmm.
make their work easier. How would you do that to manage them closely? Maybe you can just give them regular updates. I think that's good.
Give like the governance body updates.
No, just you have the chief. Yes, just give them updates about your project. Keep
Okay.
that. I think the information you have included it's useful. Keep that and say for managing them closely, we're gonna give them regular updates and ask for feedback. So you are saying they have high power over your project, and then your strategy is to manage them closely. This is something you would do. Regular updates and ask for feedback and see if they need anything from you in terms of the project. So good job here. Show me one example from your other table.
Oh, here. I didn't know we were supposed to do
Okay,
this one.
that's okay. That's just the one that appears on your project charter. So you can just get the same information, talk about their authority. How would their decisions impact your project?
Oh, okay. These guys.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. You
All
can
right.
put this. We can look at some other classmates of yours and see what they've done so you can get more ideas. Good job. Good start, Jacob. Let's see who else is willing to share.
I'll be willing to.
Go ahead, Nixie.
Okay. I was in the same boat as Jacob as for the other chart as well.
That's okay. Share what you have.
Okay.
Construction manager. What's the focus area of your project? What's your focus area in your group? What are you doing?
We're doing water supply.
Water supply management. So the construction manager has a stake in your project because this is going to impact their work. Interest in positive influence is moderate to communication plans and developments well in order to exactly. So you're going to share your plans so they know how they can use your system perhaps for their advantage. Good. I read the first one. Yep, it's about most of it. It's about communication, yes, and keeping them informed, making sure they get what they need. Good job. This is another good example. Who wants to go next?
Watterson front desk. How can I help you?
Could I go next?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just gonna read one or just share one of your examples with us, whatever you want us to look. So the governance body, they have positive interest. So you have a scale of, you have negative and positive from -5 to +5. This is a moderate interest, moderate influence, maintain contact with the Mars colony government to keep project within regulations. Good job. This is a really good example of a strategy that is like what we're looking for. Really good one. I read the first one. It's really good. Thanks for sharing. Whose example was this? Zach? Perfect. Just gonna take quick notes here. Who is sharing? Jacob K shared. Okay. And who was the Jack? You shared after Jacob?
That was me.
Jack.
Nick C.
Let's see. I don't. Okay, let's see. Anybody else wants to volunteer?
Yeah, I can go next.
Go ahead, share yours.
All right. This is Quinlan Tisdale's screen, so you know.
Yep.
Take a look.
And new development director, high interest, moderate influence, keep close communication. Yep, that's good. Let's look at your table because I think you're the first one who has that second table. And so the director for only, yep, the authority. So talk about the authority. The second table, after you run it by your group members, it can go to your project charter. But the first one is for use within the group only. Good job, Quinlan.
Okay.
Who's gonna go next?
Go next.
Go ahead. So in office staff, high interest, low influence, support team with information and resources as needed. Perfect. And then you have the property manager, oversees, and the authority. Good, really good. Good practice, everyone. Who is going to go next?
I can, I guess.
Yes, go ahead, Eddie.
And then I think I need to zoom in, right?
Yeah, a little bit. We can, okay, Morse Colony Housing Department chief, interest positive, influence high, maintain close communication. Yep, that makes sense. And then you have the same person and their authority and what they do in terms of impacting your project decisions. Good job, really good. Who is next?
I can go.
Go ahead. Let's see, we have consortium manager, positive interest, moderate influence, keep them updated. Perfect, that's great. And the second table is still under progress. Okay, good.
Yeah, I didn't know we were supposed to do it. So we're just supposed to come up with names for this one, or is there like a specific?
Just come up with names and then the same titles that you have up, just share what authority they have over your project.
Sounds perfect.
Great. Let me ask, I'm gonna ask some of you to share. Eddie has shared. Virgil, do you want to share?
Sure.
So we have project manager, high interest, or on a scale of 1 to 5, moderate, maintain relationship with each stakeholder and try to help with each need. Good, that's good. Doctor, that's your second table. Good. When I see your tables, I just read the first row. So I don't read all of them, but I trust that if the first one is good, the rest of them are good too. Caitlin, do you want to share?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Let's see what Caitlin has. Maybe I read the second one because I've seen construction manager already. Property manager, a positive interest, high influence, work closely with the property manager and contract team to ensure the project gets done correctly and keeps them updated. Perfect. Great job. Great job, Caitlin.
Thank you.
And Naomi, do you want to go next?
Sure.
So electrical engineer, that's the first time you'll see that. Positive interest, moderate influence to help supply creating equipment needed to increase customer satisfaction. Yep, this is the equipment, and that's their role, and then you want to make sure they understand your needs. So that's what they do for your project, and there's something you do for them to keep them happy or keep them satisfied. So this is high or high moderate. You want to keep them satisfied, so give them regular updates, give them predictions of your needs in the future. Good job. So there is role on that table from the book. That's what they do for you, and there is strategies. What would you do for them to make sure they're up to date, happy, satisfied, informed? Good job. Let's go to, let me see, let me look at some of the team members. Robert, do you want to share? Robert, are you here? Okay.
This is what I got. I don't know if I did it correctly.
So water management workshop, work closely with other stakeholders on the supply and distribution of water. That's the work they do. What relationship would they have with your project? So, and I think this is good. You come up with some ideas. This is the work they do on a strategy section or in authority section. You want to make sure you understand their roles as it relates to your project, which is an information systems project, and your actions that you would perform to communicate and manage them. Just make sure.
So it's like how we deal with them, right? Not what they're
Exactly.
actually doing.
The strategy
Okay,
is how you deal with them, and the authority is how they would make decisions that would impact you. So I would say just refer back, because some of the roles you have, maybe refer back to the hierarchy and see how they fit. I think you have them, but maybe you give them different titles. So go back to group description, just tweak those titles a little bit. And as Robert said, in authority, you would formulate the authority they have over your project, the kind of decisions they make that would impact your project. In a strategy, you would think about things you will do. All right, so we looked at a few. Maybe we look at two more. Benjamin, do you want to share?
Yeah.
Colonists, indifferent, and they have moderate influence. Ones living in the new building and give feedback on quality of life. Ones also, you're focusing on new construction, so if they leave, they can give you feedback. It's like kind of user acceptance. Yep, that makes sense. Thanks.
Yep.
And let me just keep track of the names I called. Benjamin just talked. Who else? Robert just talked. And I'm
I
gonna
haven't gone. I guess I could go.
go ahead, John. Maybe we ask you and then we end the discussion of stakeholders. So electronic engineer, we looked at this positive interest, moderate, keep them updated on the system being used and the electrical intricacies in case their expertise is needed. Good, that's great. It's really good example. Good job, class. The first table is for your use, for your group use only. The second one, after you run your items with your team members, or you mix and match. Maybe you keep some of your items and you borrow somebody else's. That second table can just be copy and pasted to your project charter, and that's for the stakeholder section of the project charter. I want to make a few more points here before I let you do to your groups and start talking about project charter. Let me go back. This is a good practice. You all did very well. those who volunteered to talk and the ones I asked to share, everybody had done a really good job. Let's look at this. It's very important, and some of your groups need to pay attention to this. I think 3 groups, they have already finalized their MOV. If I give you comments, if I ask you to tweak wording, today is the day to finalize your MOV. Why? Because your project charter, which is going to serve as an agreement or a contract between you and the sponsors, it covers all the areas of the project: costs, scope, risk, feasibility, everything. And your MOV will impact all of those. So you want to make sure your MOV is finalized at this time before you start formulating different areas of the project in your project charter. So, and make sure it's not a moving target. We agree upon 2. I asked you for 2 or 3. If you're still a little bit behind the schedule, you feel overwhelmed, just pick 2 and make sure they're clear. You and I agree on them and we move on. An MOV has impacts on your planning, all areas of planning, even on the number of staffs you are hiring, different groups of staff and skill sets that you need, on your major milestones. So MOV is a foundational idea here in this course. You discuss it in your business case, you finalize them in your project charter. And the project charter is the beginning of your planning. So you do chartering and planning. Planning is detailed planning, which we won't get to in this class, but basically you get all those areas like risk, procurement, stakeholders, and you make them more elaborate and more detailed. When you do your project charter, you have to finalize MOV. So MOV, as I told you, it's going to impact all your other areas. It's going to impact your time, budget, scope. I'll let you read these. So on your project charter, you're going to talk about time. What do you know about time? You created a work breakdown structure, a simple one on your lab 1. So you're going to think about those. You're going to think about phases that we talked about. Come up with some major phases, some major milestones, maybe 2 or 3. And that's going to be your high-level planning, high-level schedule. Same about cost. Some major cost-related items. That's what we need for your project charter. Risk, something you've done before. Everything that you do depends on your MOV. That's why we need to finalize them today. I'll let you read this detailed explanation, but the bottom line is that the value you're promising you're going to provide, that's how you go down and define inside the scope, outside the scope, major milestones, major budget items, major risks, major stakeholders. And as you can notice in your examples that you shared in these simple activities that we did, your focus area is different from your other groups, from the other groups' focus area. Some people who are highly interested in your project, they may have no interest in some other group's project. So your MOV impacts your stakeholders, your stakeholder management, and a lot of other things that you put on your project charter, and a lot of other things involved in the planning process. So I'm going to send you to your breakout rooms if you don't have any questions. And I'm going to give you 5 minutes before I start visiting groups one by one, just asking you if you have questions for me or if you want to run something by me. I hope that everybody has their working documents, that business case, the same document you shared with me, and start adding project charter items to it. I have shared with you 2 examples from previous semesters. There is this master chef example that's with you. And I hope you can divide and conquer. This is 2 or 3 pages. It's high quality. Some of it is just tables like the one you created today, the one you created in lab 3. Some of it is a little bit of wording and explanation. I hope everyone gets a good start today. Let me open the breakout rooms, give you that 5 minutes, and then I'll visit you soon. Eddie and John, are you aware of the breakout room situation?